So now that we have our roles configured with members from both the Centrify directory user perspective and the Active Directory perspective, let's go ahead and assign global security settings and global permissions. Let's start with some global security settings. So from here, I'm going to go over to the settings menu and I'm going to select resources. Now, as you can see here, I do have global account security. This is where we can allow multiple password checkouts. We can allow permanent workflow requests for password checkouts, allow permanent workflow requests for logins, and then establish periodic password history, rotation, and check-in. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make a couple of modifications. One is we're going to enable periodic password rotation after specified intervals of days. We're going to leave it at the default of 90. Now basically what this means is any privileged account that we add to the vault, which is the Centrify Identity Platform, is going to be rotated every 90 days. Now later you're going to learn that when we check in a password that is vaulted, we can actually configure it to be rotated as well. But this is a default measure that will happen every 90 days. Now if we scroll down a bit, there are some other options here that we have to consider. Under Global System Security, we do want to allow access from public networks. This is related to the web client. And we want to check this box. Now the reason for this is to allow external use to the identity platform. This does not necessarily give you access to the Active Directory environment that's behind the perimeter. But it does give you access to the platform from an outside source, such as a public network. This is going to be ideal for third-party contractors, the mobile workforce, or outsourced IT. We'll go ahead and save this option. And now we can move to global account and global system permissions. So from here, we're going to go back over to Access, and we're going to start with global account permissions. Now, as you can see here, we don't have any global account permissions. And global permissions, whether they be for accounts or systems, are not required. But in some cases, you may want to grant visibility to specific roles or specific groups as a default measure. So let's go through this process. We do want to have all of our administrators to have the ability to view all of the resources within the environment. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to add, and I'm going to go to my roles. We're going to start with the Privileged Access Service roles. I have 3 of them. Now, Privileged Access Service users are not going to have global permissions, because if we grant global permissions, even at a small layer, that applies to all of the resources within the environment. So we're not going to use this one. But we will give visibility to the admins and the power users. So I'm going to check both of these roles. And we'll click Add. Now the Privileged Access Service administrators are going to have the ability to grant permission. They're going to have the ability to check out passwords, perform secure remote login. They'll have the ability to edit account information, delete accounts, update passwords, and rotate passwords. This would apply to all of our domain administrators, very similar to what they would have from the standpoint of Active Directory permissions. The only difference is we're applying them here. Now, for power users are going to be remote support staff. And they only need view and login and rotate. This gives them the ability to rotate a password without actually entering that password. So now that we have our global account permissions, we'll go ahead and save this, and we'll move to global system permissions. Now it's very important to remember that anytime we talk about account permissions, we can set the view permission, but in order to view the actual accounts, we must apply view permissions to the system where those accounts exist. So we're going to have to do the same thing for global system permissions that we did for global account permissions. So once again, we'll click Add. and we'll look for our privileged access service groups. We're going to select the privileged access admins and power users. Once again, the privileged access service users do not require global permissions. We're going to apply those at an individual resource basis. So we'll click Add. Now for system permissions, it's going to be a little bit different. You'll notice that the view permission is already granted. This gives them visibility to all of the systems that are in the environment. But the privileged access service admins are going to have the ability to grant, manage sessions, edit, delete, add accounts, and unlock accounts. For the power users, we're only going to give them the ability to manage sessions and unlock accounts. But they will still retain the view permissions. Once again, in order to see privileged accounts, they must have view permissions to both the account and the system where that account is stored. We'll go ahead and click Save. And now we have those global system permissions. Now once again, global account and global system permissions are not required, but this gives you a baseline, a starting point if you will, for all of your upper tier administrators so they can have visibility and management responsibilities within the identity platform.